This is Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor, G5REV calling secure, standing by for any calls. Hello everyone, I'm Ben, I'm G5REV, and today I'm unboxing, programming, testing and reviewing this handheld radio. This is the Yaesu FT3D, and I bought it as a well done present to myself for passing my full exam, and I've had it for just over a week now, and so thought I'd do a bit of a review about my first impressions about this radio. Firstly, to the unboxing. So I purchased this from MLS, a well-known radio provider here in the UK, and it came. I was a little bit disappointed. They took an extra day to dispatch it. I ordered it on the Saturday. I expected them to either dispatch it on the Saturday or if not the Monday, but they ended up dispatching it on the Tuesday. I don't really know why it took them that long, but anyway, it came on the Wednesday, well packaged as you can see with the bubble wrap, and all track delivery, so it's perfectly safe en route. And I ordered the radio, which as you can see is the FT3D, and as well as that I also got a couple of boxes. This is the EU edition, which is why it's got an E after it, so it's the FT3DE rather than the FT3DR, but I think that just means Europe or rest of world, but there we go. I also ordered a battery, an extra battery, so this was available. It had a bit of a discount. That's just a belt pack clip that screws directly into the battery on these radios, and this battery was just an additional extra. I decided I wanted an extra battery because, of course, if you're out somewhere and you run out of battery, it's so frustrating. So I thought, well, if I just get a slightly smaller second battery, then I've got that extra if I need it. I also bought this, the CD41. This is just a desktop charger that either charges the battery or the radio with the battery in, and just got two LED lights on there for charging and full. But I wanted something so it could sort of stand up on the desk rather than having a wire trailing. It was sort of struck me as good quality, nice build on it, and it's not going to slip anywhere on the desk, and the cable just plugs into the back of it out of the main box, so that's what that is. So what about the radio itself? Well, there's nothing more satisfying than opening a brand new box, is there? And inside the box, first thing you're greeted with is the operating manual. It is a classic Yaesu manual. That is to say, you need Google or someone to show you as well as the manual. I don't think it's straightforward. It's quite difficult to take in, but there is a lot online to help you with it. Let's have a look at the charger. Well, because this is the UK edition, you've got the UK plug, but the original one has the EU plug on it. So first job is to just whip the little EU plug off there and stick the British plug on so that I can plug things in. I was a little bit disappointed that neither of the two batteries that I bought came charged. So I sort of turned the radio on and had to then recharge both the batteries from nothing. And of course, they're quite slow trickle charge, so that took a bit of time. Now, this frustrates me. This is a cable. It plugs from your USB into the radio, but it's not for programming the radio. It's just for firmware updates, so it's pretty useless, unless once every blue moon there's a firmware update to do. And there's another battery clip, because of course the battery clips go straight into the battery. This is the stock rubber ducky antenna. It feels really good quality, actually. It's sort of it's not going to break. It's heavy, and it just obviously just screws into the top of the radio with an SMA connection. It's a little bit flexible, but not wobbly, and so yeah, really pleased with that. And then this is the radio itself. As I first pick it up, the first thing I notice is it's heavier than I thought it would be. It feels really well built and robust, and the screen is obviously a touch screen and is shiny. Now, as I flip it over, let's have a look at this other battery. This is a bigger battery, bigger sort of physically, but also bigger in terms of how many milliamp hours it charges. And you can see it's a lot thicker than the spare one that I bought, but it does give twice the amount of power. So I've got those two, but both of them just clip onto the back. So let's put one of these in place. You sort of connect it on at the bottom and then clip it in to the top, and there's two clips, so it's not going to fall out. And then obviously the antenna just clips on there. Now you'll see the screen there. This was freezing cold because it was right out of the van that's just delivered it. So don't worry that there's a massive thumbprint on the screen. That was just condensation because it's freezing cold. But there we go. It turns on, and the first thing it needs is your call sign. It really fascinates me that a brand new radio can be sold without a programming cable. I mean, everyone's going to want to have to program it. So I found a workaround using a micro SD card that I had lying around the shack. So this is how I programmed the radio without a programming cable, and I hope this will be helpful to someone. So the first thing to do is to insert an SD card. You can see I've got one in here by the little SD symbol shown up at the top right of the screen. And then what you're going to do is hold down the display button for a long hold, go into SD card, and then go down to backup. Oh, it's on backup already. So again, press the display button and then write to SD card and press display again. And it says, do you want to write? So you say okay, and then I think you have to do it twice, and it starts writing to the SD card. So what this is going to do is write all of your current settings onto the SD card. Now, if you haven't got any settings on your SD card, don't worry, there you go, it says completed. Don't worry, you still need to do that because you need to just put a backup folder on there so you've got something to then edit. If for some reason you can't do that, what you might need to do first is format the SD card by going into the format button and doing that first. But I've already done that, so I was able to just back up. So popping the SD card into the computer, it should sort of pop up and say, here you go, here's your SD card, go into FT3D and into backup, and you'll find this data file, backup.dat. I recommend popping that on the desktop. Then what you need to do is go onto a web browser, I use Google Chrome, and type in something like Yaesu FT3D programming software or something like that. Now there's quite a lot of programming software on the market that you have to buy, and everyone says, oh, buy this one, it's only $30, it's worth every penny. But frankly, I think if you've built a radio, you should probably provide the software for free. So I'm using Yaesu's free official software. If you go on the FT3D section of their website and go onto files and go down to the bottom, you will find the software section, and in there you want to find their programming software and download it. And once you've downloaded it, you'll need to expand the file out, unzip it, and once you've done that, you can then go into the setup file and install the software on your computer. That should give you a little desktop shortcut once you've gone through all the install sections, and then you can load up the software and begin programming your radio. So back onto the desktop, there it is. That's the little symbol you need, and here is the Yaesu file. Now if you go onto connections and get from SD card, it'll say, where's your SD card? Well, forget about that. Go to the desktop and point it to the file that you've just put up, that backup.dat file that you've put on the desktop. That's what it's looking for. And then, as you can see, it's loaded in all of the settings that I currently have on my radio. Now, you can just add to that by writing extra lines on that. But of course, as you can see, all of the different repeaters here, I've got every repeater within 70 miles of my house in order of where they are in the world. It's actually quite difficult to do. You probably need to do copy and paste, but you can't copy and paste it. So instead, go File, Export that file as a comma separated value file. And then once it's in a program that can open a comma separated value file, a bit like Excel, you can then just copy and paste all of the lists of everything that you need. However, Excel is not compatible with Yaesu software. Look, it's changed column F to CNAME, and it's also changed the frequencies. It's got rid of all of the decimal places. Now, on the column for how many hertz there are for the band, that actually makes a difference. The Yaesu software can't read it. As you can see, if I save it out of Excel, it has saved those changes to CNAME rather than the repeater shift. So you can't use Excel for this. Now that took me about 4 hours to work out. Instead, once you've exported it onto the desktop using comma separated values, I would recommend going on Google Sheets. That is Google's version of Excel, but for some reason, it just works in a way that Excel doesn't. So I'm not usually a fan of Google Sheets. I find it clunky being web-based. But anyway, for this, it works really well. So go on Google Sheets and create a blank sheet. And once you've created a blank sheet, you can then import or upload, I think it's called in this, the file that you need. But first, make sure that you are on a plain text setting. So instead of sort of auto formulas, just say plain text. That stops Sheets changing anything, like the things that are written into other things, which is what Excel has done. Go on to upload in import a file and drag and drop that file into there. And as you can see, you'll then have everything. You need to say it's comma separated values, and it's worth saying not to convert any of the text. Say don't convert the text. I've forgotten to do it there, so let me do it here. Don't convert any of the text to anything else. Just keep it as it is. And then once you've imported that data, you can open that particular file. And now you can go on something like Repeater Book, find all the names of the repeaters, copy and paste them all in, and it works really well. Just a few things to note. Firstly, it doesn't matter on the repeater offset that it has all of the zeros on, but on the tone squelch for like 77.0 HZ, it needs the 0.0. You can't just put 77 HZ, it needs the 0. Secondly, on the column, what is it? Is that F, where it has the repeater shift? It's either positive RPT or negative RPT. It needs to say that without a space between it. And then lastly, on the column where you get to put in the name, so for example, I've put GB3SA Stanford repeater or whatever for it there. I think that's column H, looking at it here. It can only be 16 characters long. So if you put in like my local repeater that's just up the road, that's too many characters. The Yaesu software will not accept it. So yeah, you've got to be really careful with that. So 7.6, as you can see there, it's okay with that as the repeater shift. But everything else, it needs to look like it does. If you open it in Notepad, you'll see what the comma separated values look like. But the tones have things like 0.0 after them. You've got to remember to put that in, otherwise the Yaesu software will not accept it. So once you've copied and pasted all of the settings in that you want, and making sure that this particular column only has a maximum of 16 characters, and wherever there is a Hertz, it's capital H, lowercase z, there is a space between it, you go File, Export. And you're going to export this as comma separated values, because that's what the Yaesu software needs. I've personally found it easy just to copy and paste things in rather than write it all out in full in the program. But once you've got the comma separated values, stick that on the desktop, load back into your Yaesu software and import. And once you import it, that's the file that I've just downloaded from Google, and voila, it accepts it. And then what you need to do is communication, send to SD card. And again, you can just say the SD card is actually on your desktop, overwrite the file that you currently have there on the desktop itself, and save it, and then put that back in the SD card. And then using the menu on the radio itself, write your backup file back into your radio, and then you will have all of the settings that you need for each of the repeaters back on your radio. That's the SD card. It's just copying on, and then I'd go into menu again, an SD card, and then write it onto the memory of the radio. So with that programmed in, why don't we take this out into the field and give it a little try on a bit of high ground near us and see where I can get to. Well, sorry for the dodgy camera angle. I think I'm about 8 foot taller than the actual tripod I brought, but just a most beautiful day in February, and wanted to come out while I'm out on my daily walk just to try a bit of portable work and see where we can get to. So I'm going to try some repeaters and see if I can get into any, and we'll go from there. Okay, let's try this out. Kings Lynn, that's a good few miles away. This is Golf 5 Romeo Echo Victor. Wondering if anyone's monitoring Kings Lynn repeater. Golf 5 Romeo Echo Victor. This is C4FM, so it should come back crystal clear if I'm in. But it doesn't sound like anything.
Yankee Uniform 2 DVD.
Yankee Uniform 2, Delta Victor Delta, Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor. Good afternoon to you. The name here is Ben, Bravo Echo November. Ben, short for Benjamin. Working portable near Lincolnshire, coming in through the Kings Lynn repeater, which is a good 30 miles from here. G5REV, YU 3DVD, I think it was.
Thank you for contact, Ben. My call is Yokohama Uniform 2, Delta Victor Delta.
So I don't think you can see the screen, but it's perfectly visible. It's perfectly visible in the with the bright sunlight, but yeah, it seems to be working well. Yankee Uniform 2, Delta Victor Delta, Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor. Thank you so much for the quick QSO. I'm going to put a few more calls out on some of the repeaters and other things locally, but yeah, great to make contact with you for the first time. Yankee Uniform 2, Delta Victor Delta, Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor, 73. Bit of a pause, which I guess is just propagation through the internet. It's quite nice that the screen tells me not only the call sign of the person who I'm talking to, but also the call sign of the repeater that I'm going through, which is really helpful. Okay, let's try the range a bit further. Let's try for the Louth repeater. It's about 55 miles away. Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor, checking access into GB7JM. Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor. One of the things that I dislike about a digital repeater is that you can't have any sort of feedback from it to tell whether or not you're actually making it there. You've just kind of got to wait and hope and guess. But you'd have the same reaction if the repeater was turned off for some reason, for maintenance or something. I'll try one more time. Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor, listening for any calls. G5REV. So that is the Louth repeater on C4FM. About an S3, S4. I'll see if I can get in. Okay, well, with a digital test done, let's try some analog repeaters as well. I've put them in a different memory bank, so it's quite easy to navigate to them. And let's see where we can get to. Well, Grantham's not too far, I should easily get in there. This is Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor, checking access into GB3GR. Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor. Now, I like an analog repeater because it at least tells you you're getting in by some sort of bleep or just an open signal or something, which I always think is helpful. So although no one's come back to the call, I know I'm getting in there. No surprise there, though, it's only about 10 miles up the road. Okay, let's try a little bit further, GB3FJ. This is Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor, checking access into GB3FJ. Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor. Well, I'm into the repeater, but I guess most people are out for a walk. Well, I haven't had much luck calling CQ, but access a few repeaters and great to take this radio out portable. I'm loving the APRS things popping through as well. You can just sort of see what's going around. Now, before I go, I've got to show you the view here because it is just gorgeous. Well, one thing that I do want to say about this is the last time I was on that high ground, slightly earlier in the week, I did get into the Louth repeater and had a QSO with someone. So obviously it's right on the edges and conditions have obviously changed since then, but it can do that distance, which absolutely fascinated me with a small handheld with just the stock rubber duck antenna. So I was really pleased with that. So I thought I'd tell you my 5 big likes and my 5 dislikes about this radio. Perhaps you've tried one of these, or perhaps you want to add your own, then do comment in the comments section below. But these are my 5 big likes. Number 1, this is robust. It feels well built. It feels like you could drop it from somewhere and it'd be absolutely fine. It feels really nice to hold. It's a robust radio. Number 2, I'm really enjoying C4FM. I didn't have any C4FM capabilities before this radio, but I've enjoyed experimenting with that with local friends on the radio and by putting some calls out on C4FM repeaters as well. So really enjoy that functionality on here. Number 3, APRS was a whole new world to me. I'd never experimented with APRS before. Once it was set up, which was a bit fiddly getting it set up, but once it was set up, it works really well. And if I plug this into my main antenna on the roof of the house, it sort of dings and pings about 10 times a minute with different APRS beacons and people putting APRS out. So that's great functionality on here. Number 4, this has got very good receive, very, very selective. It doesn't get overloaded, which my cheap Baofeng always gets overloaded if there's a lot of RF around. This manages to listen well. As you saw in the video, I was listening to a station many, many miles away, just with a little rubber ducky antenna. There's no way my Baofeng would have been able to do that. So it's got a really good receive on it. And of course, it can receive on lots of different bands as well. So you can have a real play with that. And then lastly, the touch screen. It is very nice to have a touch screen. It's really easy to navigate the menus using it. And you don't have to use the touch screen. You can just use the knobs on top as well. So I'm a fan of the touch screen. The 5 dislikes, the things that I really wish a radio at like 400 odd quid would have right. Firstly, the touch sensitivity on the touch screen is not quite right. On a mobile phone, you have very accurate touch sensitivity. Even if your finger is bigger than the button you're trying to touch, it sort of takes an average, I think, of, well, whereabouts is he touching, and takes an average and pinpoints it. This doesn't seem to do it. So if you're typing in sort of a call sign or a message on APRS, it's quite easy to touch the wrong button accidentally, because I think it sort of registers the first point of contact rather than the average point of contact. So my biggest improvement to this would be to do whatever it is that my mobile phone does, which enables me to use my fat sausage fingers to actually type on a little screen without any problem whatsoever. Secondly, a lot of people have said this about the volume on this radio. I haven't actually had a problem with the volume yet, but I could understand if you were up a windy hill somewhere, there is no way that you'd be able to hear well. So there is a shortfall, I think, in the volume of this. It could be overcome with a Bluetooth headset or a plug-in, some sort of headset, but frankly, a radio of £400 should have better audio than this one does. Thirdly, I think the box is lacking something, just a programming cable. Everyone's going to want to put this into a computer and program it. Why, oh why, oh why doesn't this have a programming cable in the box? I know you can buy them, but they're quite a lot of money. It just seems ridiculous that it doesn't have a programming cable. Number 4, battery life. This has got a reasonable battery life on it with the big battery, but it's nowhere near as good as my cheap Baofeng. I think the screen, the APRS, listening on 2 different frequencies simultaneously is all a bit of a drain on the battery. I would have liked to have seen a slightly better battery life. I'm glad that I bought a second battery so that if I'm out and about, I can just swap it over. And lastly, my last sort of dislike of this radio is how difficult it is to program a repeater, because the tones for like the tone squelch are in a totally different place to the repeater offset. I'd have just put them all together, because if you're programming a repeater, you're probably going to want tones, a method of doing one of those tones like DCS or CTSS or whatever else, and also all of the frequencies for the tones in the same place as the repeater offset and the shift, whether it's up or down, rather than 2 different submenus. That said, with those dislikes, the likes outweigh the dislikes. I'm delighted with the radio. I'm really, really happy with it. And I'm loving all of the functionality, particularly things like power settings that are actually power settings. So there's a huge difference between 300 milliwatts and 5 watts of output power. And I'm really, really enjoying it. So I commend it to you. I hope you enjoy one if you get one. And I hope you've enjoyed watching this video as well. Well, thank you so much for watching this video about this, my new little toy. I hope that's been helpful in terms of showing you a bit of what it can do, and also some of the likes and dislikes. Join me again for another video next time, and do feel free to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more of my content. I'm Ben, I'm G5REV, off and clear, 7-3. This is Golf 5, Romeo Echo Victor, G5REV calling CQ, standing by for any calls.